The brutal truth is that you do not need a massive plot of land, expensive tillers, or complex irrigation systems to feed your family. For decades, the multi-billion-dollar agricultural industry has brainwashed us with one perfect, absurd lie: that true abundance requires massive horizontal space. Look out at your garden right now. Have you ever stared at a 30-foot-long potato row and wondered if you are just wasting space? I used to do exactly that. Every single spring, I would repeat the same exhausting routine. I would dedicate nearly a quarter of my garden just to potatoes, digging a trench 4 to 6 inches deep, dropping in the seed potatoes, covering them up, and hilling them once, maybe twice. I would sweat, bleed, and toil under the sun, and the result on a good year was a pathetic 1 to 2 pounds per plant. From a massive 30-foot row, that worked out to maybe 40 to 50 pounds of small, unimpressive food.
It was a terrible return on investment.
But then, I saw something in Holmes County, Ohio, that completely reset my entire understanding of survival and plant biology. Next to a weathered Amish barn, sitting quietly in a tiny corner of the yard, was a simple, rusting wire cylinder. It was about 2 feet across and 3 feet tall. At harvest time, the Amish man did not bring out a shovel or a tractor.
He simply took a pair of wire cutters,
Snipped the ties, unwrapped the wire, and let the entire structure fall open. Potatoes literally spilled out from every single level. I stood there and watched in absolute shock. I counted to 50, and then I just stopped counting because there were too many. All of that massive, life-sustaining food came pouring out of a structure that took up less than 4 square feet of ground. That is the exact moment I realized I had been imprisoning this plant, limiting its true potential for nearly 20 years. This is not some cute internet gardening trick. This is a miraculous biological loophole that the elite agricultural system is desperately trying to keep buried. For exactly $12 in materials, you can build a money printing machine for food right on your patio. Today, I am giving you the exact blueprint to unlock this secret, reclaim your independence, and harvest a mountain of food from a space the size. The Amish community in Holmes County, Ohio, did not survive brutal winters and economic collapses by sheer luck. They survived because they fundamentally rejected the concept of dependency. They live without the electrical grid, without massive diesel-powered tractors, and without the toxic synthetic fertilizers that modern farmers are forced to buy. When modern industrialized agriculture decided to dominate nature by expanding horizontally, swallowing up thousands of acres, and soaking the earth in petroleum-based chemicals, the traditional Amish took a completely different path. They quietly observed nature. They recognized a fundamental truth that modern textbooks purposely leave out. This specific plant desperately wants to grow vertically. The Amish did not invent some genetically modified super potato in a sterile laboratory, nor did they rely on complex, expensive technology to boost their yields. They simply watched how the plant functioned on a cellular level and maximized its built-in biology. Using nothing more than rusty wire fencing and mounds of old straw, they engineered a vertical system that triples production inside an incredibly tiny footprint. They transformed a 2-square-foot patch of dirt into an infinite food vault, capable of feeding an entire family through the darkest, coldest months of the year. While farmers just outside their community borders were drowning in millions of dollars of bank debt to finance heavy machinery, the Amish were silently pulling ultimate abundance straight out of the earth with their bare hands. Modern commercial science loves to label this kind of traditional low-tech wisdom as primitive or backward. But the undeniable reality is that this so-called backward method is actually the most perfect, resilient blueprint for escaping the modern food monopoly. By stacking the harvest upward instead of spreading it outward, they cracked the code to ultimate food sovereignty. Today, that forgotten knowledge is your ultimate weapon against a system designed to keep you reliant on grocery stores and supply chains. Why does a 3-foot-tall wire cylinder absolutely destroy a 30-foot-long garden row in terms of yield? The answer lies in a suppressed piece of botanical science that will completely change how you view food production. Most of us were taught one very simple, very flawed idea in elementary school. Potatoes grow underground, but very few people will ever explain to you how they actually form. Potatoes do not grow from the roots of the plant. They develop on highly specialized structures called stolons. Stolons are horizontal underground stems that shoot out from the main central stem of the plant. And here is the absolute key detail that unlocks the entire system. Stolons only develop from the portion of the stem that is physically buried in darkness. They do not grow from the deep root system, and they certainly do not grow from the leafy part of the plant above the ground. That means the vertical length of the buried stem directly determines exactly how many potential tubers that plant can produce. In traditional back-breaking row planting, you hill the dirt once when the plant is about 6 inches tall, and maybe you hill it one more time later in the season. That traditional method gives the plant only a few pathetic inches of buried stem to work with. You are literally starving the plant of its biological potential.
But in the Amish vertical method,
Every single time the plant grows 8 to 10 inches taller, you bury it again with another 4 to 6 inches of material. You repeat this cycle 3 or 4 times throughout the season. By doing this, you are forcing the plant to create 3 or 4 completely new production layers stacked on top of each other inside the exact same footprint. You are hacking the plant's biology. However, you must be incredibly careful, because genetics dictate the line between a massive harvest and total failure. Not every potato variety will cooperate with this vertical growing hack. The agricultural world divides potatoes into 2 strict categories. The first type is determinate, which includes popular varieties like Yukon Gold or Red Norland. Determinate varieties are genetically programmed to only set their tubers near the base of the plant. No matter how high you build your tower, no matter how perfectly you layer the soil, a determinate potato will only produce one single layer of food at the very bottom. If you want to unlock the infinite harvest, you absolutely must use indeterminate varieties. Indeterminate potatoes, like Russet, Russet Burbank, German Butterball, Elba, or Kennebec, are biological machines. As these plants grow taller, they continuously produce brand new stolons all along the newly buried stem. They turn a 3-foot vertical cylinder into a relentless, unstoppable starch manufacturing factory. The elite corporations that control our food supply do not want you to know that you can grow 100 pounds of survival food in a corner of your patio. Because the second you realize how powerful you are, their entire profit model collapses. A biological system that multiplies food infinitely inside a tiny wire cage is a direct threat to the corporate supply chains that are designed to bleed your wallet dry. Do you want to know exactly how ruthless these corporations actually are? Just look at the potatoes sitting on the shelves of your local grocery store right now. Never, ever try to use a standard grocery store potato as a seed for your tower. Why? Because the industry has secretly sprayed almost all of them with a toxic chemical called a sprout inhibitor. You could build the most perfect, scientifically accurate Amish tower in the world. Follow every single step of this guide to the letter. But if you use a grocery store potato, your entire system will completely fall apart. That seed has been biologically castrated. They literally spray chemicals on your food to ensure that you can only consume it, but you can never, ever replicate it at home. They actively destroy your ability to be self-sufficient, so they can sell you permanent dependency. Choosing the right, untreated, indeterminate seed potato, it is the very first step you must take to physically remove yourself from their manipulative, greedy system. I am going to give you the exact 5-minute blueprint to build this system. You do not need any special skills, you do not need heavy tools, and you do not need strength. You just need to follow these exact steps. Step 1 is preparing your seed. About 2 to 3 days before you build your tower, take your organic, indeterminate seed potatoes and cut them into chunks roughly the size of a large egg. Make absolutely sure that every single piece has at least 2 healthy eyes, which are the small dimples where the new growing shoots will emerge. But here is the secret that will save your harvest. Do not put those freshly cut pieces straight into the dirt. Fresh cuts are incredibly vulnerable, and if you bury them immediately in moist soil, they will absorb too much water and rot instantly. Instead, spread your cut pieces out in a single layer in a cool, dry, shaded area with good airflow. Over the next few days, that wet, cut surface will dry out and form a tough, protective skin called a callus. Think of this callus as a natural bandage that the potato creates to defend itself against fungal infections and rot. Once that protective armor forms, the survival rate of your seeds inside the damp tower skyrockets. You will need about 4 to 5 pounds of calloused seed potatoes for one standard tower. Step 2 is constructing the $12 survival cylinder. The absolute best, most efficient design for a home system is a cylinder 2 feet in diameter and exactly 3 feet tall. Go to any cheap hardware store and buy a roll of welded wire fencing with 2x4-inch rectangular openings. This specific mesh is sturdy enough to hold the heavy soil, but open enough to allow massive airflow. Cut a section long enough to roll into a 2-foot-wide circle and lock the ends together tightly using cheap plastic zip ties or heavy wire.
Why exactly 3 feet tall?
Because that vertical space allows you to complete 3 to 4 perfect hilling cycles. If you build it any taller, the wet compost will make it completely top-heavy and it will violently crash to the ground. Step 3 is selecting your location and building the core foundation. Potatoes are aggressive solar engines. They demand full, punishing sun. Place your wire cylinder in a spot that gets at least 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight every single day. The sun drives the photosynthesis that pumps sugars down into the buried stolons to swell the tubers. Ensure the ground beneath the tower is perfectly level and firm, so it doesn't tip over. And absolutely make sure it has flawless drainage, so water never pools at the base. To build the foundation, pack the bottom 10 to 12 inches of the wire cylinder tightly with dry straw. This straw layer stops your expensive soil from falling out of the holes and creates a massive airflow zone to prevent bottom rot. Next, dump in about 6 inches of a 50-50 blend of rich compost and loose straw or garden soil. It must be light, fluffy, and capable of holding moisture. Lay your calloused seed pieces on top of this dirt, spacing them evenly, with the eyes pointing straight up at the sky. Cover them with another 4 to 6 inches of that same soil mix and water it deeply. Your tower is now 12 inches tall, and the trap is set. Step 4 is the infinite multiplication cycle. After a week or two, green shoots will aggressively punch through the dark soil. When those shoots reach 8 to 10 inches tall, you execute the hack. Dump another 4 to 6 inches of your soil and straw mix directly into the tower, burying the stems and leaving only the top 3 to 4 inches of green leaves exposed to the sun. Every time you bury that stem, you trigger the plant's biological panic response to push out more stolons and create more potatoes. You will repeat this burying process every 2 to 3 weeks until the tower reaches its 3-foot maximum height. Step 5 is mastering the 3-inch rule and claiming your harvest. Because this wire tower is surrounded by open air, it dries out infinitely faster than the ground. Do not guess when to water. Shove your finger 3 inches deep into the side of the tower. If it feels dry at that depth, you must flood the tower until water pours out of the bottom straw layer. Consistency is everything. When the plant finally blooms with small flowers, the multiplication phase is over. Stop burying it. The plant is now pumping all its energy into swelling the existing potatoes. Wait 4 to 6 weeks until the green foliage turns completely yellow and dies back. Do not rush this. The dying phase thickens the potato skins so they can survive in winter storage. On harvest day, snip the zip ties and watch the entire structure collapse in a magnificent landslide of food. Pristine, massive potatoes will roll out from every single layer of the straw. In your first year, harvesting 40 to 60 pounds is standard. But once you master the moisture and the soil biology, pulling 100 pounds of survival food from 2 square feet is entirely within your grasp. The exact moment you take those wire cutters, snip the ties, and watch 100 pounds of life-sustaining food crash down onto the earth, you are experiencing something far greater than a simple harvest. That is the exact moment of your liberation. You have just pulled absolute abundance out of thin air. You have just proven to yourself that the massive, expensive machinery, the toxic chemicals, and the patented seeds of the corporate elite are completely useless against the miraculous, unstoppable force of nature. You no longer have to bow down to grocery store inflation, and you do not have to live in fear of fragile, breaking supply chains. True independence is not something you can buy with a credit card at a big box store. Independence is something you must physically grow with your own 2 hands in the dirt. By building this rusting 2-square-foot tower, you are entirely rejecting their system of dependency. You are planting the seeds of a quiet, unstoppable rebellion right in your own backyard. The multi-billion-dollar agricultural empire wants you to forget this knowledge. They desperately want to bury the Amish secret under millions of tons of sprout-inhibiting chemicals and endless rows of monocrop failures, but we are not going to let them erase this truth. If this exposed archive just unlocked a brutal, hopeful truth inside your mind, you need to hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell right now. Every single like, every single share, and every comment is not just a digital metric. It is a direct act of defiance. It is how we protect and preserve the survival knowledge. Build your infinite food machine today. I will see you in the next vault. Stay independent.